In the last 7 days of December, life opens a gate that only the disciplined can see, a gate where your past asks to be closed and your future waits to be claimed. What you do in this silent week will not just shape 2025, it will define the person you are becoming. December has a way of speaking without sound, not through noise, but through the soft pressure you feel in your chest, the knowing that another year is ending and another version of you is waiting to be written. Most people don't feel this moment. They rush through it, celebrating, escaping, distracting themselves from the truth that time is asking a question. Are you finished with who you were, or are you about to repeat it? This is where transformation begins in the quiet. In these last 7 days, the universe does something subtle, something rare. It slows your world just enough for you to hear the conversation inside yourself. You stand on the edge of a year that carried your battles, your habits, your victories, your pain, and whether you acknowledge it or not, everything you did and everything you avoided has followed you to this moment. This chapter is not about changing everything. It is about recognizing the truth. 2025 has already begun, not on January 1st, but right here, in this quiet, sacred week. This is the week where destiny whispers, where discipline reveals itself as the only language the future understands, where every unfinished task becomes a weight you no longer want to drag forward. You look at your life not with guilt, but with clarity. You see the routines that shaped you. You see the decisions that weakened you. You see the strengths that carried you. And you finally see what must end before the year does. Because no new year can save a person who walks into it with old chaos. And no future can expand for a mind that refuses to clear the room. So you pause. You breathe. You listen. In this silence, something becomes clear. Transformation never begins on January 1st. It begins the moment you decide to end the year consciously. Tonight, you step into a new identity, not by force, but by awareness. You understand what most people never will. The last 7 days of December are not a countdown. They are an initiation, a cleansing of the mind, a sharpening of intention, a resetting of your personal power. This is the doorway to your 2025. This is where momentum sleeps, waiting for you to wake it. This is where your next year bends in your direction. And as night settles deeper, you whisper a truth to yourself that Napoleon Hill once taught in silence. I am the architect of the year ahead. I am the master of the days behind me. My future begins in my discipline. The turning has begun. There comes a moment in every life when you must confront what you've been avoiding. Not because the world demands it, but because your future refuses to carry it any further. Tonight, that moment sits across from you like a silent mirror. You see the clutter not just on your table, but in your habits, your routines, your promises to yourself. Every unfinished project whispers. Every delayed decision lingers in the air. Every excuse you made this year sits beside you like a guest who overstayed their welcome. And for the first time, you understand the truth. Nothing unfinished disappears. It simply follows you. People believe the new year resets life. But the universe isn't fooled by dates. It responds to direction, clarity, completion, not calendars. So you begin to pick up the first paper. Old goals. You feel the weight of everything you said you would do and didn't. But instead of shame, something new rises in you: responsibility. A quiet strength. You whisper what few dare to say. If I carry this into 2025, I will repeat 2024. And for the first time, you refuse to repeat anything. You start sorting through what must go, what must stay, and what must finally be finished. This is not cleaning. This is spiritual preparation. Every item you fold away, every task you complete, every loose end you tie, it releases a piece of the old you, the tired you, the distracted you, the version of yourself that lived on tomorrow instead of today. Because a year isn't changed by hope. It is changed by order. And inside this quiet room, you realize something Napoleon Hill taught through every principle he ever wrote. Your outer life is nothing but a reflection of your inner organization. If your room is cluttered, your mind is cluttered. If your goals are scattered, your direction is scattered. If your time is unguarded, your destiny is unguarded. So you continue, not quickly, not chaotically, but intentionally, like someone preparing for a mission. Every piece of paper you stack neatly, every object you set in place, every decision you finalize becomes a declaration. I am making space for the person I am becoming. This is the work most people avoid. And this is why most people repeat their years instead of redesigning them. But you, in these final 7 days, are doing what the average mind refuses to do. You are clearing the runway for your 2025 to take off, not by dreaming, not by wishing, but by removing every weight that slows you down. Tonight, you don't just clean your room, you clean your identity. And as the room grows lighter, so does your spirit. You step back and look at the space around you, organized, open, ready. This is not the end of a year. This is the beginning of a disciplined life. There is a kind of honesty that only arrives at the end of a year. It is not loud. It does not accuse. It simply sits with you, asking a single unescapable question. Who were you really? Not who you pretended to be, not who you told others you were, not who you wished to be, but who you became through your habits, your choices, your discipline, your doubts. This is the soul audit, the moment when you examine the truth of your year without exaggeration, without excuses, without emotional distortion. You open the notebook, you breathe once, and then, with slow, steady pen strokes, you write, what strengthened me this year? What weakened me this year? Tout simple question. Yet they reveal more about your destiny than anything else. As you write, the truth rises like a tide. You see the moments when you kept your promise to yourself, the early mornings, the disciplined nights, the brave decisions. You see the small victories that built your confidence. You see the quiet acts of persistence no one applauded, but you felt deeply. And then you see the other side, the procrastination you justified, the habits you allowed to grow roots, the distractions you willingly fed, the fears you surrendered to, the opportunities you watched slip by because you weren't ready. It hurts, but it liberates, because nothing can be fixed until it is first faced. Napoleon Hill wrote that success requires one to be brutally honest with oneself. And this morning you finally understand what he meant. This is not about blame. This is about clarity. And clarity is the birthplace of power. You turn to the next page and write, what must end before 2025 begins? Not everything, just the patterns that hold your future hostage. You already know the answers. The pen simply confirms what your spirit has been whispering for months. You feel the weight lift as you write them down. The act of naming your weaknesses does not make you weaker. It makes you untouchable. Because a person who knows their flaws is far more powerful than a person who hides them. This is the work the world avoids. This is why the world rarely changes. But you, in the silence of this winter morning, are choosing to confront yourself, not out of shame, but out of respect for the greatness you know lives within you. You close the notebook slowly, not because you are finished writing, but because you have begun something far more important. You have taken full ownership of your life. The audit is complete. The truth is clear, and with truth comes direction. You stand up from the table with a new stillness in your chest, the stillness of a person who is no longer running from themselves. And as the morning light rises, you feel a quiet vow forming in your heart. I will not take the old me into a new year. There is a moment in every transformation when the old identity begins to loosen its grip, not because it wants to let you go, but because you finally stopped feeding it. All year long, you carried versions of yourself that no longer belong to the life you are building. The hesitant you, the distracted you, the uncertain you, the version molded by old habits instead of new standards. But these last 7 days of December demand a different kind of courage. Not the courage to start something new, but the courage to end who you no longer wish to be. You breathe in the cold air. It wakes something in you, a recognition that identity is not permanent. It is a choice repeated daily until it becomes a worldview, a rhythm, a self. And for the first time all year, you ask yourself, who am I willing to stop being? This question is powerful because it confronts the invisible chains, the patterns that felt normal, the doubts that felt justified, the fears that felt familiar. You realize the old identity survived because you kept it alive through repetition. Every excuse strengthened it. Every delay protected it. Every comfort fed it. But now, standing in the winter wind, you see the truth. Nothing in your life will change until you stop being the person who created your old results. The air grows colder. Your breath appears in small clouds as if your old thoughts are leaving your body one exhale at a time. You think of the habits you practiced this year that weakened your spirit, the moments you gave your discipline away, the potential you placed in the background of your own life, the greatness you kept postponing. For the first time, you feel ready to let it all go. Not dramatically, not emotionally, but deliberately, the same way a warrior removes armor that's become too heavy to wear. Letting go is not loss. It is liberation. Napoleon Hill taught that you become what you think about, but today you understand the deeper half of the law. You stop being what you stop thinking about. As you stand beneath the darkening sky, you mentally release the identity that cannot carry you into 2025. The hesitant voice, the scattered mind, the self-sabotaging reflexes, the comfort-driven choices, the small version of you that feared its own potential. You release them because they are no longer true. You release them because they no longer serve. You release them because the future you are building requires a different mind, a higher state, a stronger self. The wind shifts gently, almost in approval. And in that quiet second, you feel something powerful move inside you. Space. Space for discipline. Space for clarity. Space for the identity you are about to step into. Space for the person who will shape your 2025. You turn back toward home with a steady heart, whispering a simple vow, I detach from who I was, so I can become who I am meant to be. The release is complete. Discipline is not built in grand gestures. It is built in the invisible moments. The mornings no one sees, the decisions no one applauds, the promises you make to yourself when the world is still asleep. In these final 7 days of December, discipline becomes more than a goal. It becomes a recalibration, a returning to the truth that you control your life through the actions you choose when no one is watching. You sit in the quiet room, the air cool, the world silent. This moment is different from the rest of the year. There is no rush, no noise, no distractions pulling you away from yourself. It feels like time has paused, allowing you to rewrite the terms of your existence. You take out your notebook again and ask the question most people avoid. What would my life look like if I simply did what I said I would? You feel the weight of the question, because deep down you already know. Your life would change. Your finances would change. Your body would change. Your confidence would change. Your entire 2025 would unfold with a power the old you could barely imagine. Napoleon Hill understood discipline not as punishment, but as the highest form of self-respect. He wrote that every great achievement lives downstream of one simple behavior, the ability to control one's own mind. And this morning in the stillness, you choose to reclaim that control. You open a new page and write what few people ever write with honesty. These are the non-negotiables of the new me. Not 50 tasks, not overwhelming goals, just the core behaviors that will shape your identity in 2025. Wake with intention. Move your body daily. Guard your mind. Finish what you start. Protect your time like it's gold. Practice the habits you admire, not the ones you tolerate. As you write, you feel a shift, a grounding, a stabilizing, a realization that discipline is not heavy. It is freedom. The old, you believe discipline was hard. The new, you understands the truth. Chaos is hard. Regret is hard. Waking up to the same problems year after year is hard. Discipline is the cure, not the burden. You rise from your chair with a different posture. Your chest feels lighter, your mind sharper, your purpose aligned. This is no longer about motivation. Motivation fades. Discipline endures. This is no longer about goals. Goals are dreams without structure. Discipline is the structure. This is no longer about waiting for January. January is a date. Discipline is a decision. You walk toward the window and watch the first light break across the horizon. And with a calm, unwavering voice, a voice that feels new, yet deeply familiar. You declare, I choose discipline because I choose my future. The recalibration is complete. A new rhythm has begun. There comes a moment in these final days of December when thinking is no longer enough. Reflection is powerful. Releasing is necessary. But now, you step into the creation phase, the blueprint of who you will become in 2025. This chapter is not about goals. It is about identity, because goals fail when identity stays the same. You sit down before the blank page. For a second, you hesitate, not out of fear, but because you feel the magnitude of what you are about to write. This is not a list. This is your becoming. You write the title slowly, The 7-Day Identity Blueprint, and beneath it, you begin with the truth few accept. I do not need 365 days to change my life. I need 7 days of absolute clarity. Each day of this final week becomes a layer, a deliberate construction of the self you will carry into the new year. Day 1, order. Not external order alone, but internal order. A mind aligned, a conscience clear, a direction chosen. Day 2, discipline. Not forced discipline, but chosen discipline. The understanding that self-control is self-liberation. Day 3, identity reset. Not who you were, but who you decide to become. The version of yourself that has waited all year to be chosen. Day 4, power habits. Not many, just a few. The habits that shift your trajectory, the invisible anchors of success. Day 5, mental fortitude. Not confidence based on outcomes, but a deep, quiet certainty based on consistency. Day 6, purpose alignment. Not wandering, but waking with meaning. The reason behind your effort, the fire behind your discipline. Day 7, the declaration. Not hidden intentions, but spoken truth, a vow to the universe, to your future, to yourself. As you write, something awakens inside you, a calm authority, a precision, a knowing that this time, this year, this version of you is different. Napoleon Hill wrote that all success begins with definiteness of purpose, but tonight you understand the second half of the law. Identity is the engine, purpose is the compass, discipline is the bridge, and suddenly the blueprint becomes more than a plan. It becomes a mirror of the self you have always known you could be. You read each line again. You feel a quiet power rising, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, doesn't seek approval. It simply knows. This blueprint is not a dream. It is a contract, a sacred agreement between who you were and who you are becoming. You set the pen down gently. You stare at the page, not with hope, but with certainty. The next 7 days will not define your year. They will define your identity. And identity shapes everything. As you turn off the lamp and the room fades into darkness, you whisper with unwavering clarity, in 7 days, I will not just enter 2025. I will enter it as someone new. Momentum is a strange force. It begins quietly, often unnoticed. A small action here, a disciplined choice there, and suddenly your entire life starts to move in a direction you once thought impossible. But momentum never arrives by accident. It arrives through intention, through the decisions you make in these last days of the year, through the energy you carry into the first morning of the next. You rise from the bed slowly, feeling something different in your chest, a calm, steady drive. Not excitement, not motivation, something deeper, something Napoleon Hill understood well. Success loves speed, but it is born from deliberate motion. You walk toward the window and pull the curtains fully open. Light floods the room, and for a moment, you realize something powerful. You feel ready. Not ready for January 1st. Not ready for resolution season. Ready for the person you are becoming. Ready for the work, the discipline, the consistency. Ready for the life you once doubted you could hold. This readiness is momentum. Not emotional momentum, but spiritual momentum. You think back to how every year used to begin for you. Hopes high, discipline low, direction unclear. habits scattered. You started the year trying to become someone, instead of entering the year as that person already. But this time is different, because momentum isn't what you create on January 1st. It's what you bring into January 1st. And right now, as you stand in the morning light, you feel the exact moment your life begins to shift. You walk to your desk and open the notebook again. Your handwriting looks different today, sharper, clearer, more certain. You write a single sentence at the top of a new page. The first days of 2025 will follow the energy I choose now. This truth lands heavy, because life does not respond to your hope. Life responds to your momentum. Momentum created by waking early. Momentum created by finishing tasks instead of postponing them. Momentum created by protecting your mind from distraction. Momentum created by choosing discipline over comfort, one decision at a time. These are not small choices. These are the gears of destiny turning. And then, a realization settles in. The last 7 days of December are not about preparing for 2025. They are about accelerating into it. You imagine the person you will be in the first week of the new year: calm, organized, purposeful, disciplined, decisive. That version of you is already forming, already breathing, already stepping forward. Momentum is no longer a concept. It is a presence. You close your notebook and place your hand flat on the cover. Ainsi l'on promise. Every action I take from this moment forward will align with the life I am building. As you stand, the room feels brighter, your steps feel firmer, your identity feels stronger. The law of intentional momentum has activated. And with it, your 2025 has already begun moving in your favor, the month that reveals who you really became in December. The first morning of January arrived quietly. No fireworks, no noise, just a different kind of silence, the kind that feels like a mirror being placed right in front of your soul. Armand stepped outside his apartment before sunrise. The air was sharper, cleaner, almost symbolic. It felt like the world had paused just long enough for him to breathe a new identity into existence. For a moment he stood still, listening to nothing but his own heartbeat. Because today wasn't just another day. Today was evidence. Evidence of whether the last 7 days of December truly changed him, or if it was just temporary motivation that would fade like most New Year's resolutions. He whispered to himself, "Show me who I became." A new rhythm. Armand didn't check his phone first thing anymore. He didn't wake up scrolling through distractions or drowning in everyone else's lives. Instead, he brewed a cup of coffee, sat at his desk, and opened the same journal where he began his 7-day transformation. The first page of January was blank, but it didn't feel empty. It felt ready, like fresh soil waiting for seeds. He wrote only one sentence: 2025 will not surprise me, I will build it. For the first time, he felt in control, not of the world, but of himself. The first challenge of the new year. By noon, life tested him exactly the way it always tests people who decide to change. A friend called him, "Bro, plan drop Hogaya. We're all chilling today. Nothing serious. Come relax." In the past, Armand would have dropped everything. But this time, something inside him whispered, "This is how people lose momentum, not through failure, but through casual invitations that pull them back to who they used to be." He smiled and replied softly, "Not today. I'm working on something." And in that moment, he realized something powerful. January doesn't test your strength, it tests your consistency. Momentum begins in silence. Armand spent the rest of the day organizing his goals, creating a simple routine, breaking each dream into smaller steps. Nothing dramatic, nothing extreme. But he felt a different kind of satisfaction, something purer than excitement. He wasn't waiting for motivation anymore. He was building discipline. And discipline doesn't roar. It whispers, just like the quiet of this first January day. Nightfall realization. At night, he stepped outside again. The streetlights flickered softly. The world looked ordinary. But he didn't feel ordinary anymore. The last 7 days of December had done their job. They didn't magically change his life. They changed his direction. And direction is what creates destiny. He raised his eyes to the sky and said, "January, I'm ready. Let's build the year I promised myself. And for the first time in a long time, the first week of January moved smoothly, almost too smoothly. Armin woke up early, followed his routine, wrote in his journal, and worked with a focus he hadn't felt in years. It felt like life was finally aligning with him. But life has a rule. The moment you start changing, it sends a storm to check if you're serious. And Armin's storm arrived on the 7th day of January. The unexpected email. He was sipping his morning coffee when his phone buzzed. It was an email from the company he had applied to last month, the one he dreamed of joining. He opened it with hope. Then, disappointment punched him straight in the chest. We appreciate your interest, but we have decided to move forward with another candidate. The words blurred. His throat tightened. For a moment, the old version of Armin resurfaced, the one who always felt not good enough. His mind whispered, "See, nothing has changed. Why try?" That's how storms begin. Not with thunder, but with doubt. The slipping mindset. He closed his laptop and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. All the confidence he had built during the last week of December suddenly felt fragile. He thought, what's the point of journaling? What's the point of routines? What's the point of discipline when life doesn't reward it? His thoughts spiraled fast, like they always did. But this time something different happened. He looked at the journal on his desk. The last sentence he wrote yesterday stared back at him. Hard days don't break me, they reveal me. It wasn't motivation. It was a reminder, a mirror, a lifeline. It took a deep breath. The turning point. Armin didn't pick up his phone. He didn't distract himself. He didn't run. Instead, he opened his laptop again, not to read the rejection email, but to rewrite his CV, polish his portfolio, and search for new opportunities. He told himself, this is not failure. This is feedback. And slowly, the storm started losing power. Because storms don't destroy determined people. They refine them. The message from a mentor. By evening, while searching for openings, his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voice message from the mentor he had met last year at a seminar. Armin hadn't told him anything, but the words felt perfectly timed. If life blocks one door, don't stare at it so long that you forget the hallway full of others. Armin froze. It felt like the universe was nudging him forward. He whispered, "Okay, I hear you." Night reflection. As the day ended, Armin realized something profound. The storm didn't come to break him. It came to test if the last 7 days of December were a phase or a foundation. He wrote in his journal, rejection isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the path to success. With that, he closed his journal, exhaled deeply, and smiled. The first storm of 2025 had passed. Not because life became easy, but because he didn't run this time. He stood his ground. He faced it. He learned.